best ranged support players in the LPL as well, and to the point where actually he was winning almost all of his games on ranged supports and losing almost all of them on the melee as well. Instant Taliyah takeaway from Yagao, one of the better Taliyah players in the league, and a lock-in for Xiaohu, who is one of his more comfortable picks. He's had some varied performances on this. You know, at least it's something that Weibo know how to play around.
So, setting up for this Taliyah with the two mid bans into the lock-in, and it's Kalista versus Lucian bot, but the Kalista Renata has gone through. So a lot of bot lane power for JDG from Ruler and Missing. However, Light and Crisp will also have a lot of tools. I feel like JDG maybe need to lock in their mid lane here, so Yagao doesn't get pinched even further.
I was wondering whether it should be the Xiaohu for the bot side 3v3. If you're going to have a fist fight, Kalista versus Lucian lane, that's definitely impactful. But then the problem is, maybe you're right here, because the Taliyah will be roaming bot side. The Ahri can also roam. Yagao has been a very good snowball Ahri player. Of course, Xiaohu on the Taliyah, as we've already said, it's a comfort pick for him. Now, it really is all signs pointing south. It's all pointing towards the bot lane, even with the jungles not locked in. I feel like the second round of bans are going to, we're obviously going to have either the Lucian or the Emilio or the Nami locked in here. I think we're going to get a lot of jungle bans aimed at stopping impacts towards the bot side of the map in our second round. We're going to see stuff like the Lee Sin and the Xiaohu probably locked away out of matchup, because this just screams to me bot side, not just 3v3, but 4v4 with the mid laners involved.
Nami the decision in the end between those two. I think partly preference, partly down to what they're bringing to the table. A bit more hard CC coming from the Nami, as well as a little bit more burst. Let's look at these bans though. Like you mentioned, junglers and top laners are the options. That said, Taliyah jungle's a thing. Maybe it's a flex for Weibo. Yeah, maybe not.
I'm not going to put any credence into that one just yet. We've got ourselves a lot of jungle bans as we thought were going to come through. The Vi actually being taken away from Kanavi, because I would imagine that Weibo, with all of the jungle bans, will want a jungle on 4, but maybe they want XiaoHao with jungle counterpick. That doesn't sound fantastic to me. I think I'd much rather have, you know, top lane counterpick, unless you want to just blind lock in the Ksante for ZDZ, take it away from Sheer, and just say, look, we'll have something valuable for him. He's a pretty good Ksante player as far as it goes. JDG, what do they think will be the fourth lock-in? They might want to ban away something like that Xiaohu, or they could ban away the Ksante themselves, take it away from ZDZ as a volume pick.
Ksante could be the option, like you say. Is it Zhao as well? I mean, who knows? Who knows at this point? I'm excited to see it, though. I really hope we just get aggression in the top lane as well. Like, we get like a Renekton versus Rumble kind of matchup, and then we get aggressive junglers, and it's just an absolute fist fight. Never mind, no Rumble matchup, because it's banned.
They heard you. So, for me, I think you have two options. You either lock in Xiaohu and you just play hyper bot side 3v3, 4v4, and hope that ZDZ has a survival counterpick, or you look Ksante and you look for a jungle counterpick that can help things out. They decide Xiaohu is the play right now. It's a pretty good combo with Taliyah, because of course you've got the ability to just kind of walk forward, and once you get that third Q knock up, very good to combo in for the Taliyah shove too, and it gives you just very good early damage. You really want early 3v3 power. The Lee Sin, very good into that kind of play. Weirdly, Lee Sin is not really a mid-jungle champion anymore. He's actually just more about farming to level 3, showing up in bot lane and starting a fight. And I think Sheer, he's been very, very prominent laning phase player on this Ksante, beating out the Renekton matchup in multiple times too, despite it being a hard matchup for that Ksante. JDG, a lot of comfort for them.
A little surprised to see the Ksante over the Renekton, to be honest, but that said, does give a little bit of playmaking and a little bit of potential engage, although it sounds weird to say engage for the Ksante off the back of a flank. You can sort of force fights with your ultimate, and you can also, I mean, we've seen hard engage from Ksante where they just double you in and get a stun, then all out someone back. Yeah, it's not exactly a consistent play, but hey, Sheer preferring this side of the matchup anyway.
I think the big thing about this is that Renekton hates playing into Taliyah and also hates playing into the Nami wave as well. At least the Ksante can press W in front of the tidal wave and be tanky for a little while and buy some space for the Kalista to do some damage. Problem is now, you have Renekton Taliyah. That's a really good combo between solo laners to the point where actually in the days of old of Taliyah jungle, we used to see Renekton Taliyah as a topside duo. Really, really big fist fight value from both teams early. JDG haven't always done that themselves, but against top esports, actually their early games were very, very destructive in their 2 wins. Weibo cannot afford to allow JDG, and particularly Kanavi, early game impact. If he is on form, I really worry about what this Lee Sin can do.
A lot of pressure here on Weibo. They have to get some results here today. They need to try and make it to playoffs. If they lose today, they could be looking down the barrel of 9 losses. If it's a 2-0, there'd be -3 game difference as well. And that might just seal them out of playoffs, depending on how the results go over the next couple of days. Weibo, not only do they need to do well here today, they need other teams to do badly. That's the problem that Weibo have right now. So every single game counts for this roster.
There's JDG on the other side. They are looking to finish off the split in style and buy themselves the Guardian Angel. That top 2 finish to get yourself into double elimination. Give yourself an extra life.
I just want to shout out the EDG, I think it's the EDG fan in the crowd there with a Chi-Chu hat. Valorant player, absolute legend. Oh. Yeah, just on the topic of the seedings there, the absolute game of chicken for the Gyos as well. Yagao has moved into the bottom lane. This could get spicy as the ward is going to be cleared. Oh no, they're letting Yagao get the ward, so he has XP advantage in mid lane.
Exactly. So now what this means is that you can hit level 2 after killing all minions in the first wave, instead of just the second one as well. Now, Xiaohu, we'll see if he gets a good trade on the way back to lane. This is kind of annoying because typically Ahri wins level 1 trades against a lot of mage clones. You run at them with like auto, W auto, you get yourself an electrocute trade for free. See the Yagao is going to see Xiaohu running around this corner. It's going to just tank the Q damage. I mean, I feel like you should just walk forward and use your electrocute at this point. It's a free trade. Not great from Yagao. At least he's going to get back to it. But this is 3 Qs in a row with Xiaohu's gotten at level 1. This flips the matchup now. There's 2 Scorches as well. This Ahri's not going to be playing with the same amount of HP. Really well played by Xiaohu. I'm not sure if you can win the trade even if you W and go forwards, right? Because Taliyah just keeps on queuing you. Like the cooldown is so low for Xiaohu. It's just because electrocute and the W base damage is so nasty.
Yeah, the problem I get the initial trade, but then after that, right? Xiaohu's not going to die from the electrocute, so he just keeps queuing you as you walk back to lane, and then you just lose, right? Well, see what happens now with the XP advantage too. The extra HP coming through very early on, really, really nasty. Of course, Ahri had a lot of buffs to her scaling HP as it comes through, makes it more tanky mid-game. Doesn't help you right now, though, and you can see that Xiaohu gets a nasty trade. Again, just continue to shove this in. He's a player which we need to see an improvement out of. We need to see some more consistency out of. That's been the real problem for Weibo. To start like that, at least put things on rails a little easier so Yagao can't necessarily get himself to an easy early skirmishing foothold. See XiaoHao hovering in the mid lane as well. I maybe thinking Yagao might look for an angle, or Kanavi might try and get into that lane. I feel like that jungle matchup is one we're going to have to be keeping our eyes on today, because Kanavi has been an absolute monster so far this year. He's had such a good year for himself. XiaoHao, like we said, kind of hoping to join the big leagues on this roster. It's been tough on Weibo so far this year. Now, one of the biggest tests he's going to have all year long is this matchup with Kanavi. Absolutely. Kanavi definitely up there as one of the best junglers in the LPL. I wish I could comprehensively say best jungler in the LPL right now, but every so often he has a game which makes me wonder if he's connected to his team. When he's on his game, I don't think there's a doubt. Kanavi has been absolutely insane, even with the likes of Shern and Milky Way playing around as well. It's very tight competition, and I think that's fantastic from a viewer perspective and from us as fans of the casters of the region as well. Really need to see him get onto the board though. Can be quite hard playing into stuff like the Taliyah and the XiaoHao a little later on. See how he does in the later stages of the game. So far, fairly even stuff, fairly quiet stuff. Yagao moves up to the top side to see if that crab has gone down. You saw Kanavi taking the bottom crab. Might be able to move up and go for a top crab as well, because Sheer currently stacking a huge wave up against CDZ. And Yagao might be able to just brute force, spend all of his mana to get prior mid. So XiaoHao, so both mid laners teleported back, and actually hasn't led up to, even the early trades which we were talking about, hasn't led to much. You see that XiaoHao is actually taking Scuttle right now. He's taking it before Kanavi can get there, which now means Kanavi has to go through a fully lit up top side. Go on to CDZ. I don't think he can find much here if he'd like to do so. Ghost going to be propped. Q3 available from Sheer. ZDZ doesn't have his slice and dice, and he
Q3.
does get knocked back. The Q comes in, and Kanavi grabs first blood. XiaoHao wants to answer. He's in a 2v1. I don't think this is a fight that he wins. Big damage onto the enemy Lee Sin, but XiaoHao cannot follow it up in the end.
Oh, it's just such an awkward timing window for Weibo. Bit of a disconnect between ZDZ and where he thinks Kanavi could be on the map. And once again, Kanavi's Lee Sin gets into the game. Vision plant is going to spot that. Kanavi didn't fly over the wall. What this means is that XiaoHao can instead just go towards the first grubs of the game instead. Charm.
Yeah, little shot there from Yagao. And importantly, I want to credit Sheer here for going for a really aggressive trade with ZDZ just before Kanavi's coming into the lane. So the slice and dice was on cooldown. Really, really nice setup from Sheer. Again, another game where we see Sheer really performing in the top side.
We don't really get to see that setup in this one. It's just the meat and potatoes of what happened here, which is Pop and Ghost running a ZDZ. Flash comes out early. It's not a reactive flash. It's a just a predictive one to maybe think that the Q is coming through. Sadly, it doesn't work out from a ZDZ. With a lot of eyes on him in a quite critical manner. Goes down for first blood.
Just aggressive trading in this bottom side. We are going to see the lethality Kalista as well. A lot of damage available there.
Was just about to point that out. It's the Halo Blades, it's the Dirk first. It means that you don't have to play in the range of Taliyah's minefield. We saw this first, as far as I'm aware, from Hayes on Gen G. That's fun because, of course, JDG's coach now is the old Gen G coach of Marfa. The coaches of Marfa versus Dani in this matchup too. Heck, they've got a lot of history between themselves and various LCK teams and about the place too. But Ruler going towards this lethality Kalista build means that he doesn't have to play the more difficult style of Kalista and say, well, I have to play very respectfully with the Taliyah. You play at your Q range, not your auto range instead. And also a big thing here is that you see you max up, you kind of do that on your regular Kalista anyway. It means that when you clear when you throw the Q through a line of minions, if it kills each of the minions, you get a Ren stack for each minion that you kill, and then if it then hits a champion and you pull it back, you get a Ren stack for each minion you've killed. It's a huge amount of burst, and it can unexpectedly kill someone like a Nami or a Lucian who are not that tanky.
Yeah, you really can one-shot with this build, honestly. And also, even outside of just the Taliyah matchup, against something like a Lucian Army that can trade so aggressively, it does give you a little bit more, like, upfront damage in a trade if you do end up in these short burst trades that Lucian Army always want to try and take. So, very, very powerful, potentially. We've not seen it really succeed in the LPL. I think we've seen it like 2 or 3 times, maybe. I only particularly remember one, but it did not look that fantastic.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I think Ruler might have played a game of it. I'm trying to remember if else. We've definitely seen it a little bit before. It's not the first time, but still, I think in this matchup, I was a little surprised to see it because, of course, it means that the Renata doesn't have an auto attacker to work with. Really, it can help a little bit. The Halo Blades, and then the bailout can help you, you know, get some extra attack speed because that's also a part of that bailout. It's not just the revive part of it. Turns out it also gives you a load of movement speed and attack speed too, which is also why it works very well with the on-hit Kalista. But still, I think that the actual Kalista in isolation, very, very big for this game. And it also means that it's just much harder for Weibo, as you said, to kind of close that distance and play the shorter trades with the Lucian dashing forwards. As you can see, Light, who is a very important player for Weibo, is getting kind of manhandled in the laning phase.
It certainly is. Bit of a tough one here. And it's, I don't know, it's one of those positions where, like, you know, Lucian not necessarily known for his strong first couple of levels. It's once you get like 3 onwards that you start to get strong. Actually, level 6 spike that. Oh my god, that's the QE damage that you were talking about. Big chunk onto Light. Uses that culling as XiaoHao now moves into the top side. Once again, Sheer buffering a lot of the CC. Actually knocks him underneath the tower. XiaoHao taking tower shots, forced away, and Sheer walks out of it. That was gorgeous play.
And the crowd roars to life behind it as well. They enjoyed that one. Sheer still no teleport. Wave crashing in towards top side, and Xiaohu hovering top lane too. So he could have potentially stopped him from picking up farm as well. Sheer getting away from kind of like 1 versus 2.5 with the threat of Xiaohu on top side. Very, very valuable. Problem is, still behind in the individual lane matchup, which means that ZDZ potentially able to keep pushing this tower with the grubs active.
Great stuff from Sheer to survive the play in the top side. I did just have a little look.
But there's no Unraveled Earth on Xiaohu now. You need to be careful.
Oh, Xiaohu flashes the charm just inches away. That was a kind of dicey flash, I'm not going to lie, from Xiaohu. Yeah. But he does get away with it. That's all that matters at the end of the day, theoretically at least.
you need to really wait until mid-game before you can play very, very aggressive and on the edge versus the Ahri and the Lee Sin, because once that E is down, you don't have an extra ability to stop people just flying in with dashes at you. That E, very, very valuable tool. So sadly for him, loses that flash for free. Maybe a return gank angle. You don't have the Malignance up just yet from Yagao to have very, very low Spirit Rush cooldown. Chris spotted roaming up towards mid lane as well. It's going to be Robs taken in the second round by JDG, at least denying the full stack from Weibo. Oh, Yagao is caught.
Yagao caught out here, has to flash away. Spirit Rush on cooldown. Does get a bit of a trade back onto Xiaohu, but I'm not sure it's really worth it. 2 grubs taken by JDG off the back of the lane swap. That is enough to at least deny the 5 grubs. So, all in all, not the end of the world, but unfortunate for Yagao to have to use his flash.
It's a little unfortunate, but hey, it's not death. I think you probably should have known you were in a bit of danger. If Chris was roaming up through bot river towards mid lane, you know that something is happening on the top side of the map. Ergo, don't be in a position away from your team when you don't have your ult. I think that's pretty standard in that regard, but still, then, well, gets back towards mid lane. Sheer gets himself a demolished proc on bot side. I like what happened here from JDG, by the way. It's a quick thing where you just get Ruler and Missing to quickly push in a wave top lane as Sheer pushes bot side. You both recall, you both switch around sides of the map, and it means that you just end up catching an extra wave than you potentially could have done elsewhere. It's one of those kind of unexpected, well, unappreciated things sometimes from just a regular spectator, because it's not the most, like, fun thing to watch, but it's like, hey, they've probably gained, like, an extra, you know, couple of hundred gold from just sticking around from an extra wave and then swapping.
Certainly have. I was having a look at the match history of Kalista in the LPL, just off of the back of our conversation. It has actually only been played one time. It was Ruler, and I remember watching the VOD to look at how the lethality Kalista worked out for him, and it was win. Like, he looked fine, but it was pretty much the Kanavi show on the Jacks, so didn't really get to see the strength under a microscope. Here we go, Drake started. ZZ is up top and has TP available where Sheer doesn't. I think maybe JDG just respecting that TP advantage.
Yeah, and I think that makes a lot of sense. If you're going in a single directional fight versus a Taliyah, you tend to lose. Same with the Nami and the Lucian, actually, because the culling, the tidal wave comes out, and then you got the combo coming from Taliyah as well. And you don't want to be stuck in that kind of corridor as all those ultimates come out. JDG, they'd really like to force Weibo into multi-directional fights where Lee Sin and the Ahri can come in from a flank, and then you have like the Renata going down the middle to corral the enemy team into it. They just didn't have that setup just there, so JDG, they take the early Dragon loss. That's fine. They get themselves a bit more time in their lanes, which is fine for them. And they keep themselves even in gold. Feels like Weibo, considering the fact that we're kind of getting a bit bossed around in bot lane, I think they're fairly happy with that. I guess a lot of it's coming from the top lane CS advantage, and that's one of the reasons we're seeing so much Renekton. Renekton is just very dominant in the Bruiser v Bruiser matchups.
He certainly is. Big old CS lead there, but it's kind of matched on the bot side, right? So fairly even in this one. It's a good start for Weibo. When you've got to remember the matchup that we're looking at here, JDG are a heavy favorite coming into this one. JDG generally, though, haven't exactly been the most aggressive early game team, a little bit slower than some of our other top teams in the LPL, quite happy to play things out and force things a little bit later on. It's almost surprising to see the fact that JDG are running this Kalista composition, though, and not trying to stack Drake. So often when we see a Kalista, you see teams play really aggressively for that bottom side of 4 Drakes, but instead, JDG roaming that Kalista up to fight for the grubs, make sure they didn't fall down 6 grubs. So, fairly passive start to this one, honestly, from JDG.
What they have done, though, despite the fact that they haven't been stacking the Dragons, is actually getting some decent value onto Ruler, and then also getting some plates in bot side as well. I think it can be dangerous playing against the Lucian plus the Shin side, which is so destructive in the bot side 3v3. It's often how we talk about kill lanes have such a target painted on them that you often just always have a jungler in your lane too. So if you can find a way to just neutralize that lane, and in this case as well, build up a bit of a CS lead and a bit of pressure, that's kind of a win in its own way. Ruler picking up the blue buff, particularly because you're spamming out so many more Qs, you can be a bit more mana hungry. That can help you as well. And now you get to contest against mid lane, against the Lucian. This is one of the other big victories. You can do that on the mid wave. Normally Lucian is uncontested fighting over this part of the map at this kind of a high break point, but Ruler, if he hits enough good Qs, it's not nearly that easy.
Yeah, honestly, lethality Kalista is kind of scary. Anyone who's played a lot of Earth will know about the damage this champion can do. You don't historically, we've not necessarily seen it that much in competitive, but it does feel like lethality is just in such a strong position
Do you remember
right
the
now.
Shy playing at top lane?
Yeah, oh my god, it's disgusting.
Sanguine Blade, remember that item? The
And
Shy playing that?
Also, the one thing I will say, this works on any version of Kalista, but lethality especially, the play where you stack up all your Rens on Gromp and queue through the Gromp and one-shot someone, oh, it's disgusting.
It's one of my favorite plays. Because I know a couple of people who are like dedicated Kalista mains, and they've been looking for like the perfect one-shot. It's like the holy grail of Kalista plays. Some of them have still been waiting for their moment on that one, and I've yet to see it in pro play. Would love to see that at some point. Maybe we'll see it in this game. I'm not sure anyone in their right minds is going to walk up to a Kalista on a Gromp, and you can see, like, not quite getting their culling angle. So actually, just the basic ability for the Ultra is very much working in favor of Ruler.
It certainly is. There's Light actually going for a bit of lethality on his second item as well, perhaps feeling like he needs to match that upfront damage. I think he went, the first item as ZDZ being dived, goes back out for the trade, but dashes to avoid the charm from Yagao. Keeps himself safe in the bottom side, but how safe is the question? The recall, if it's committed, it could be XiaoHao in trouble instead. Crisp is moving over. Xiaohu moving down and has that Weaver's Wall available. XiaoHao backs away, respects it, kicked against the wall, flashes the charm, but a tier 1 taken by JDG.
Yeah, not quite the clean combo from JDG, but still buys the flash from XiaoHao and the ultimate from ZDZ, and they get themselves that tower. Meanwhile, Ruler wave clearing in mid lane safely, so there was a chance that he got jumped on. Xiaohu one fall as well. So, JDG, we've known this from them. They don't always play the game fast, in fact, quite far from it. It feels like it's more of the once in a blue moon, they pull out a massive destructive early game. They did that versus top esports a couple of times, so that was typically through Missing's Rakan and Kanavi's Lucian. It's those kind of combos which have worked out for them very, very well. Herald, though, being pushed into mid. This could potentially be a game kind of accelerating play from JDG, but let me know whether they can find it.
Herald charging in. Just going to be half a tower. I don't think they can really commit to anything more there. Missing, attempting on the handshake. But now moving over to the Drake. Again, I feel like it's always Chemtech Sol. I feel like every game I cast is Chemtech Sol.
I remember because we talk a lot about the Soul itself and try and justify whether it's good or not. Most of the time it's a failing effort.
Yeah, it's not that great. It's not that great. It's okay.
Handshake.
Oh, nice handshake onto XiaoHao, and that Crescent Guard doesn't do anything for you in this matchup. 2 kills picked up. Can he get the charm? No. Xiaohu gets away. I think the charm was on cooldown at the time. Yagao has his flash. Yep, you're absolutely right. The Light gets out on a blast cone. That's one thing that Chemdrake does bring, is big old blast cones and ZDZ. He's trying to push the wave. He's in the wrong part of town right now. Took a tier 2 in this top side, but I don't think he's going to get away with the play. Sheer pushes him against the wall. Everybody flies in for a bit of action, and it's Yagao to pick up the kill.
So, picks up a kill, 2 assists, that is 4 stacks in the Dart Seal, which means an extra, basically an extra amp tone worth of value. Alongside the kills, pretty much an extra 400 gold on the board from that as well. So, snowball potential from JDG picking up a little bit of extra damage. Missing though, opportunistic as ever. We've spoken a lot this year about how Missing from last year, he was actually quite undervalued because there were so many star players on his roster. This guy, when you show him an opening, he might not always be the person doing the psychotic kind of engaged plays. He's very good at punishing mistakes though. Like that when XiaoHao had no flash, couldn't get away from the handshake.
Great handshake from Missing. Great opportunity found. 4 for 0 now for JDG. And what JDG lack in sheer acceleration, a lot of the time they make up for sort of cleanliness in a lot of their games. I feel like cleanliness is a weird word in League of Legends, but it does get used somewhere. Yeah, I guess discipline, yeah. They very rarely get caught out. They very rarely throw away a lead that they get for themselves. And it feels like they've set themselves up in a good position. It's not a huge lead, but it is a lead.
And it's a lead while, being down turrets, which means that effectively, if they can get to those turrets, money in the bank, nice for them. It means that they can kind of get that standing gold. Weibo, they don't have that same ability to kind of trade tower for tower in this same kind of ease, which can sometimes be one of those bigger late game kind of concerns between a number of these teams. Second item is starting to come through. On the Edge of Night onto Ruler. That's kind of just nice in being able to stop some of the bursty stuff come through. It means that maybe you can even jump through something like a tidal wave in a big fight should you want to position yourself more aggressively like that as well. Edge of Night, I think it's one of these items that's actually very game-changing. It's a very efficient item in terms of the lethality stats you want, plus also just having that game-changing spell shield early into the game.
Light trying to contest in the mid lane here, but he's got to be cautious with Kanavi and Yagao on the top side of the play. Threatening moving in. It's 4v4 just to fight for mid prio here. Top lane has been forgotten, and Yagao, I was going to say remembers that it's there, but no, he's moving back towards the team. Fighting for this prio with Baron spawning up onto the map.
I don't think either team can really rush the Baron. This is the problem with the ADC Kalista. Really good at securing it if you get those stacks, but not as good as killing it. And here comes the fight.
Oh, missing saved by the Fate's Call here. Nice try from Weibo, but unfortunately the Renata is so safe with a Kalista.
And one of the other things too is that Xiaohu actually has maxed out E now. The cooldown is much lower, which means that even though Xiaohu lands the combo, much harder to follow up from JDG, like they did in laning phase onto him a little while ago. So JDG, they lose themselves an ultimate, they lose themselves some priority over mid lane. Weibo get themselves a brief opening on the map. XiaoHao looking around the back, he has flashed and potentially look for a play, but it's Shear's counter.
Yeah, Shear's found him. Shouldn't matter too much though, I think this will be the tower
Kanavi
going down. Kanavi tries onto Chris, but denied. The wave is huge, and XiaoHao stopped from jumping in by the handshake. Yagao on the top side of the play, but he's on a ward right now, so does have to back away. Tier 1 secured.
Kind of awkward there from JDG. Felt like they were sitting around looking for a big opening. They missed their one shot, and Chris does a great job of disengaging that play. Worth noting for Chris began that I really feel like he's been at home on the range supports in a way that other LPL supports haven't been. I feel like though we've had a lot of different issues with themselves as a team, Chris on range supports has actually been a really good point. The Nami is one of his stronger champions as well. Hell, he even had the Ash banned away from him in his first game coming through to it. So Weibo managed to hold their battle lines, get themselves now all outer turrets, and then of course an inner turret as well. And that top lane down in their favor, which means that JDG, they're going to have to work harder to push up on the map. They're going to have to work harder to keep themselves good vision around these objectives, including this dragon spawning in 30 seconds. One of the big item breakpoints. Already talked about the Edge of Night. 2 items for Ahri, big point 2. On the other side though, Xiaohu really got a good DPS core build going on.
Yeah, he certainly does. Xiaohu's going to be a monster later on into the game. Lucian, you know, ultimately a crit AD carry may not be one of those, you know, hyper-scaling AD carries or anything like that, but compared to lethality Kalista, he's very much a late-game AD carry. So if this game goes for a very, very long time, could be advantages for Weibo, but I don't think JDG want this to go a very long time as they start up potentially their third Drake. Weibo want to contest.
So ZDZ actually kind of important there that you can hit that ward. It resets his kind of cooldown on the rage going down. You can hit the blast cone for it as well if he wants to go into the play or pop his ult. Here comes the fight over the dragon.
Posturing for the 50-50 here, but the Kalista does so much damage with that rend. It's taken by JDG, and now the fight ZDZ into the backline, kiting backwards to ZDZ. Can't quite get it, and Sheer tanking up the enemy team. Both top laners dash out, but Yagao finishes ZDZ off. Oh, the flash charm is wide, but JDG, they still get the Drake, and they still get a kill.
ZDZ managed to get into the backline, surrounded by 3 people in melee range. You normally think, heck, that's how Renekton wins fights, but he just can't close down the targets. Ruler with that Edge of Night, so hard to get through to him and get that point and click stun. Of course, Yagao, great damage too on the item breakpoint. Weibo now they're trying to find a secondary play.
Ruler might have gone too far forward on this one. Bailout available for him as XiaoHao tries to close the gap, but he's just being chased down himself now. And in the meantime, Sheer and Kanavi are fighting the rest. Yagao arrives, but Light dodges the charm, and now all-ins onto the enemy mid laner. Trying to finish this kill as XiaoHao desperately trying to escape, and there we go. Trade of kills across the map, but JDG still with man advantage.
They have the man advantage, but no smites. They can't use it to look for like, kind of like a Baron attempt in its own way, despite the fact that one of the big threats of JDG just got sent to the death realm very briefly. I love how Ruler had a huge big brain play against the Taliyah in that fight. You can't get stunned if you don't dash. He just stands still and auto-attacks. The proper XPK kiting experience. It just sits there. While Xiaohu can't get big enough value. Where are we going to start with this? Right, back down to the dragon fight. ZDZ, full rage, gets into the backline. Surely this should be so much. As the fight starts, yes, the dragon goes over to the Ren. We kind of expect that. But like ZDZ, he should be doing so much work, but he just can't get the damage done. He gets completely separated out. XiaoHao on the other side can't join him in the front line for that. Feels like there's the follow-up from Weibo was just not quite there, and we lose that kill.
Pretty unfortunate as well that the charm literally goes through Xiaohu. It looked like a hit to me, but Yeah, and then at this point, right, Yagao tries to follow up on his teammates and kind of ends up overcommitting as the rest of the team kites up and follows XiaoHao.
Just look at this. Ruler thinks, I'm in a minefield. I'm going to stand still. He doesn't pop it once at all. Knows he would have taken the damage. Instead turns it all the way around on XiaoHao. Just a bit of a shame from Yagao that he just missed another charm. Skill shot accuracy, not quite the best on this one, but still. Awkward that he goes down, loses some Dark Seal stacks that he works very hard for, but still. On the whole, JDG winning out across the grand scheme of things.
It feels like a shame to see Yagao kind of struggling on the Ahri to some extent today, because he's 50-50 on his Ahri so far, wins and losses, but I feel like on average he's been a pretty solid Ahri so far this split. It felt like this was one of the picks that maybe he could come back in.
Oh, not again.
The rocks come out as well to stop any follow-up. Xiaohu keeps himself alive and dodges yet another charm.
So, the thing when it comes to like Ahri play from a player like Yagao, I guess it has even applied to players like Faker and even Knight at points as well, is that I care more about how the positions which Ahri players put themselves into rather than trying to land like the 50-50 charms and stuff like that. Now, there are egregious points like this where it's like, okay, you dashed into melee and you missed your charm anyway, but Yagao, yeah, I think it's good decision making. Let's see if he goes it again.
Light in trouble, flashed over the wall though as Kanavi's gone too deep on this one, needs to get to his team. That's 1-for-1 so far. Hostile takeover denies the follow-up from Weibo. And we end up in a 4v4 stalemate. Both teams walk away. Both teams lose a player. But it's jungle for support.
Both of these teams so quick on the teleports. W coming out from Sheer. His frontline potential severely diminished after that thing goes down. But it does make it pretty much unkillable for a little while. So JDG, they walk away, trying to control this mid wave. Again, very even on gold. They have themselves that soul point. That's important for them. It looks like they're going to be able to walk into the river as opposed to Weibo after this point. They are going to have teleport advantage also coming up, as Sheer will be able to hold that one over them just a little bit. And, yeah, Weibo. Bit of a strange moment for them. They forced to play pretty hard after JDG. Well, they respond to the play very hard, but they can't quite, once again, find themselves a winning fight.
I will say, though, like, this feels like a bit of a level up from Weibo for me. Like, after their recent series, looking like this in the fights against JDG, being able to kind of match a lot of the pressure that JDG have been putting on, it does feel like a good showing from Weibo so far. Like, regardless of the result, this has been a decent early game. Yes, they are behind in kills, they're slightly behind in gold. Yes, Soul Point is spawning in 30 seconds, and that could be a decider, but they have been going toe-to-toe with JDG, and I take that as a positive.
And they stick the landing, though. Weibo, yeah, very much best of three merchants, but in kind of one of the worst ways. They'll win one game, but can they get a big shove? That's a Kanavi!
Kanavi so low, but XiaoHao can't finish the kill. Kanavi survives, he walks away. Yagao gets a charm as the crescent guard falls. Tidal wave through the team. Hostile takeover on the opposite side. And we all back away again.
It's just both of these big blanket ultimates cancelling each other out for the entirety of this game so far. Crisp and missing, firing them along exactly the same avenues. They know where the space they want to control is. JDG, they do keep their jungler. They also get to heal him up, and they go towards the Baron. Weibo, they have the Taliyah ult. They're going towards the Dragon, though, but and that means they're not going to have Smite for the Baron.
Yeah, XiaoHao still on the bottom side. JDG kind of needed to burst this, but enough threat from Weibo forces them away from the Baron. Drake taken by Weibo, and they don't lose anything for it.
Okay, so the big thing there is that you have the lethality Kalista, not the on-hit. You can't burst down the Baron with Blade of the Ruined King and continual auto-attacks from Ruler. Xiaohu using that kind of just ability to hide around the corner as the Taliyah. Look for that shove out of Fog of War, try and get something good, and Weibo will get themselves a turret from here as well. Despite the fact that they only have 2 kills in this game so far, they're very much competing in terms of gold, and they're competing very much in terms of map pressure. Those towers they took earlier, really helping them in terms of hitting JDG into areas of the map and allowing themselves a bit more breathing room on the map.
Feels like Kanavi is really struggling to impact these later fights. They seem so hard to play against things like the Taliyah, the Nami. As you said before, that wave coming out, the rocks coming out from Taliyah as well, does such a good job of diminishing what's available for the JDG dashing carries, which turns out is all of them. Tough fights for JDG, and it does feel like Weibo's composition, we talked about the scaling aspect of it. Xiaohu's almost on 3 items. You've got 3 items for Light there. Yeah. They are starting to get to the point where their carries are just going to get to a point where they out-damage everyone on JDG.
question is, can that be managed by Sheer being the tankiest person on the team and there also being a bailout to buy some extra time should things get close? I think as it stands, I'm favoring Weibo in terms of the damage difference. Void Staff now picked up from Xiaohu. Now I'm definitely favoring them in terms of killing the front line. Sheer is going to have to do a huge amount of work to stop this Weibo team being able to just kind of like rack through the front line and get themselves that first kill. There's no Dragon up right now. Baron's still around. Both these teams fighting very heavily over mid lane, partly because that's where these AD carries, they're kind of like favored. They love to be in mid lane and go over into different sides of the river. And also because JDG are afraid of what Xiaohu can do with the ult if they split too far. They want to play just on mid lane alone if they can help it to stop this Taliyah just being able to wall off in unexpected directions.
Wave denied there by Weibo, just one shot. And I have a question for you, Nymeara. At what point does Ruler just sell all of his items and buy a Rage Blade?
That's a really good point. The problem is you don't have any items which transfer between the builds. You'd have to do a full build switchover, which would have to be hyper late game or nothing else. That's actually the big thing about this. If there was a Blade in this build, or if there was a Lord Dominic's Regard instead of Cyrilda's, that would be likely picked up. I think you could do it actually towards just the early parts of late game. I don't think you can really do it until you've got just boatloads of cash otherwise. I know that was part of a joke, but actually, I feel like there's a world where it would be quite valuable.
It's one of those jokes where I don't think he's going to do it, but I also feel like we've got to the point where the lethality Kalista, I mean, I don't know if it's really going to have much more impact on this game. We'll have to see. I've been wrong before, and this is Ruler we're talking about. He always seems to find a way, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. Get ourselves to a point now where... What's that 500 stack? Oh, it's 500 first strike gold from Light. It's like, what's the 500? He's getting an extra 500 gold from first strike. That will be what it is.
Do you know, I see a lot of those pop-ups on the side, and when it's like Smolder or Senna, I'm like, okay, I know what this is. It's quite obvious what they are. Sometimes it's like Ksante pops up with something, 200, and I'm like, what? What? Is it like the player has done? Is it a milestone for the player? I have no idea.
It might be Grasp. It might be good. I think it's Grasp and first right. They track the maybe at that point. That's the only thing I can think of. Unless you got something like a Heartsteel, and then it obviously shows you on the tabs. It's a little bit different in that regards. Yeah. The game is really slowed down now, though. I think again, JDG so afraid to play the game wide because there's a Taliyah in the game. Strong, can one-shot people, and then can also teleport back to the other side of the map, so you can't even cross-map against it. You kind of just have to play very safe. They now finally, after this last phase, got a bit of vision into the enemy jungle. Actually, it's just died, the Warfare Raptors, but that was, that was allowing JDG a structure to play around the wider map. I wonder now that the vision's starting to die, whether we just go back towards mid lane again. Because just afraid of the Taliyah. Level 16 now as well, very long range ult.
Xiaohu, a player that's known for his prowess in side laning, understanding how to play that side lane out, proving that when he went top lane for a split, was basically the best player in the league as a top laner. Very impressive player. As we're going in, Sheer on the front line, looking for XiaoHao here. The TP forced out. As Kanavi did take a huge chunk right as Dragon is about to spawn.
Yeah, this is, again, one of the big problems with the Taliyah, who's got the voice staff as well. Really uncontested damage to frontline right now. He's managing to get a lot of these important shoves. So, Kanavi looking for a Q-Smite steal.
Let's see if he can find it. Let's see whether or not Xiaohu can get those rocks underneath the Drake as well to potentially deny things. Xiaohu flies across XiaoHao on the Drake, and it's Xiaohu that grabs it! That's 3 for 3 now as Weibo, can they escape from the fight? Kanavi is so low at this point as Sheer goes forward, knocks Light back, and a huge chunk taken from Ruler as well. But Sheer has gone too far for this one, and he goes down. Fate's called forward, flashed away though, as ZDZ gets onto the backline. Ruler shielded by his Lee Sin. It's 4v5, but Weibo slowly winning it out.
Weibo are winning the battle of both skill shots, and in this case, the smite as well. They go against the Rend. Yes, it's lethality. You don't get as much attack speed to stack up the Rend as much, but it's still a Rend. And it means that with 3 dragons apiece, it hasn't led to a Baron, so Weibo are not going to be able to start really controlling the map and forcing JDG into an untenable position. But it's a... oh god, it's going to be another slow game here, Joe, because I don't see this as being a game-breaking fight. It's just one which stops JDG from getting soul and trying to grind out the game in their own way.
Oh, it's so tense in this game. It's so incredibly tense, but Weibo holding their nerve. Light able to dash forward and do so much damage without much punishment in return. Let's take another look. I want to see, because Xiaohu was the one that got this Drake in the end.
Let's have a look. So he's just hitting with the rocks. He gets berserked, but yeah, I mean, it just the smite and the rend is not at the right timing, so it just goes down to the next Q that was still firing through from Xiaohu, despite the fact that he was CC'd. And then, of course, we see Sheer after this, kind of like trying to make that hero play. It's just really hard to do that at the ranges they're playing at. Xiaohu has been spacing these fights very effectively. He's very hard to get on top of. He's always in range to punish with a shove.
That was a huge MVP fight for Xiaohu. Gets the dragon, gets the knockback onto Sheer as well, and then flashes away. Yagao gets the charm. It's only onto ZDZ though. And unfortunately, the flank leads to naught. Sheer on the bottom side of the play, potentially trying to deny Xiaohu, who's looking for a wall angle, but instead we'll find chickens.
It's a bit different what he was looking for. Turns out there's signs of wildlife. Things have lived here. Fuck it, you as well.
Yeah, have lived until rocks were thrown at them. Xiaohu.
Make nice snacks, I guess.
One bird, two stones, very literally, or other way around. Two birds, one stone. Yeah, there we go. That's 8 chickens, 4 rocks. There we go.
Yeah,
that's
so
the Taliyah
you know
edition.
that is the new LPL saying 8 chickens, 4 rocks. Incredible. That's the one. Kanavi once again looking forward. Very hard for Kanavi to play out these late game fights. JDG, they really need to get themselves a flank. They're going towards this now. They do have themselves a decent amount of burn damage again. Going through this, not the quickest.
Lucky Yagao.
Rely on the flip.
Okay, spotted by Light, but Light just goes straight into the charm, trades half of his health for this. We're just going to flip Baron at this point. Kanavi still in the pit, ZDZ forced away. Oh, Yagao dives onto the rocks!
No!
What a mistake from Yagao, what a flop in the most important fight of the game. And now 5v4, Weibo can chase this down. The wall goes in, Xiaohu's in melee range as the Taliyah MVP performance on this mid lane. And that is Weibo taking down JDG in the first game. They might just end the game.
I think with the waves that they have and the, well, I mean, even with the waves on their own side of the map, with 30-second death timers, it's at least an inhib. I don't think it's the game. They have to go back and finish the barracks and say, look, if we go towards the inhib, we don't get the Baron, and the Baron allows us to finally split the map in the way that we want to. Xiaohu, massive MVP of that fight. Kinda with some help thrown into him as well as Yagao misjudges the edge of the hitbox to the E. All the same though, this Taliyah has ruled the late game. Starts with Yagao, sat in a brush. Yes, he gets a good chunk onto Light, but he's on such low HP now that he's basically out of the fight as well. So it's AD carry for mid, and then this play is what breaks things apart. You don't get to survive around to a second charm cooldown at this point, and it's just a mechanical misplay. Dodges into the minefield, his fight is over. He might have cost his team the game with that.
And then the flick back onto Ruler as well. Xiaohu, I mean, to be honest, I'm not really going to credit him with the Yagao kill. I feel like that was Yagao that got Yagao killed there. But the rest of the fight, fantastic. Able to follow up on the 1v3, essentially, in the final parts of the fight. In the previous Dragon fight as well, the flick back onto Sheer actually took that Dragon in that last one. But we're going to have another Dragon fight coming up in 35 seconds here. We are very much into that late game that we talked about, Weibo having an advantage in.
Okay, so JDG, will they be able to find themselves an angle onto one of these carries? Zhonya's on Xiaohu, Seraph's on Xiaohu, nasty stuff. And the problem is, Ruler is not doing consistent damage. He's got to wait for his Q cooldowns. It's not really a late game Kalista build. At this point, yeah, maybe you are just wondering if you can survive to the point where you can switch over builds. At least he's still got the Halo Blades, not the worst rune set ever. It's going to be a Soul Dragon on the table, but JDG are in a single direction fight again. Yagao hanging off to the side, but it's not a clean flank angle. Weibo are going to have themselves another front-to-back fight.
Whoever gets this straight gets the soul. It's 3 apiece right now. Ren's stacking up. JDG desperate for this. Xiaohu wants to find that wall angle. Yagao's found him though! This is huge from Yagao. Redemption after the previous fight, and it's JDG to get the Drake. Sonya's not available for Yagao, and the bailout doesn't go through. Xiaohu survives.
He has the Seraphs and the Zhonyas, both defensive items, bail him out of what could have been a turnaround play from JDG. It's sold to JDG, but it is not enough, I don't think, to save this game. There's no Kanavi, no Yagao, a full cohort of Weibo going towards the Nexus.
And no AD carry either, because it's 40 minutes in the game and you're playing lethality. Kalista, he's a large cannon. I don't think he can defend this one as Weibo try and push it forward. 25 seconds on the respawns, but the Baron Duck minions will do the work by themselves. XiaoHao underneath the tower here, using the Crescent Guard. Sheer buying space for the team as ZDZ dives underneath the tower himself.
Oh,
Goes into the GA, desperate to finish the game. Weibo push forwards with everyone falling. They'll take game one in an upset against JDG.
An important game and an important series for the world finalists of 2023 at Weibo. They need a series win versus some very tough opponents in their last two series of the split to get themselves into the playoffs race well and truly. They're at 6 series wins right now. They need at least 7, and there's even a likelihood, well, there's a chance that there's an 8-win threshold needed as well. This game here sets us up for what could be another really crazy upset that's happened today.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, Weibo, they're on half of the wins of JDG. JDG are 12-2. Weibo are 6-8. There is no universe. This should be happening, and yet Weibo have shown up at the very end of the split, and they take game one against JDG. We're going to go into our break, and God only knows